Thank you. Good morning, my grade 7 learners once more. Mr. Ratsu, I'll be with you again in the next presentation under fractions, but now we'll be looking at the percentage increase and the percentage decrease. Thank you very much. Now, will be my presentation outline. Very short, but now we know in mathematics there are lots of working out to be done. What is a percentage? Percentage increase and also the percentage decrease. Now, I also had to consult a dictionary. What is a percent or a percentage? Now, according to the South African Oxford Primary Maths Dictionary, percent means out of 100. A percentage is another way of writing a fraction that has a denominator of 100. Now, when we are working now with the percentage, it's still fractions, but now our denominator is 100. Then there is a symbol that we use that symbolizes a what? A percentage. This symbol distinguishes a percentage from other numbers. Therefore, that will be the sign that is highlighted in red. Now, let's go straight to the examples. Percentages can be written as fractions. Let's look at the first one. It says 50%. Now, how do we write 50%? Convert it to a proper fraction or a fraction. We take 50, then we divide it by 100. Then if I have to simplify 50 divided by 100, that is obviously a half. 50 into 50 goes once, and 50 into 100 goes 2 times. We can even take it further. That will be your next lesson, to say this common fractions or these percentages can also be converted to decimal fraction. Now, a decimal fraction, which is equivalent to 50%, which is 50 divided by 100, or 1 divided by 2, it will be 0.5. The next example is 25%. We take the number 25, we divide it by 100, and if we have to simplify it, it will be 1 divided by 4. How do we get to 1 divided by 4? 25 into 25 goes once. Then 25 into 100, it goes 4 times. And then if I have to convert it now to decimal fractions, I will say 1 divided by 4, that will be 0.25. This, once highlighted in red, we call them decimal fractions, which is not the topic for today, but the topic for another day with Ntate Mahloko. Now, the percentage increase. The concept of percentage increase is basically the amount of increase from the original number to the final in terms of 100 parts of the original amount or a number. For an example, an increase of 5%, and this is how we write 5%. We write 5 with that symbol there that represents or shows a percentage, would indicate that if you split the original value into 100 parts, that value has increased by additional 5%. Let's go to the examples. 1, a 30 to 60. Look at these two whole numbers. There was an increase from 30 to 60. Now we're saying here there is an increase of 30 from 30 to 60. Why? 60 divided by 30, it will be a 30. Now to move from 30 to 60, it simply means we have added another 30. Now, the percentage increase has therefore been 30 divided by 30, which is equal to what? 100%, because we will have 30 divided by 30 multiplied by 100%. What is 30 divided by 30? That is definitely a 1. Now 1 multiplied by 100% is 100%. We'll have a clear picture now here. A 40 to 60. Here there is an increase of 20 from 40 to 60. How did we get to 20? We definitely said 60 minus 40, that is 20. The percentage increase has therefore been 20 divide by 40. The 20 is the difference between 60 and 40. Now we divide it by the original amount or the original number, which is 40. Then we multiply it by 100%. Now, what is 20 divided by 40? 20 divided by 40 is the same as a half. Now, a half multiplied by 100%. What is a half of 100%, my dear learners? That is definitely what? 50. Now, let's go to number 3, which will be engaging us into the activities. Calculate the percentage increase of the following. 3.1, it says 100 to 120. 100 to 120. 100 to 120. Then we need to find the difference between the two. How do we find the difference? 120 subtract 100, and therefore, how much do we get? We get 20. Now we can see that there is an increase of what? Of 20 from 100 to 120. Now the question says, let us now find the percentage increase. Now we take 20, that is the difference, divided by the original number. Which one is original between 100 and 20? Most definitely 100. And then now we multiply it by 100%. Then we said earlier in the first lesson, a whole number can be represented or written as a fraction. Then we divide it by a 1. Now, we can simplify. Remember the importance of simplifying to move away from working with big numbers. 100 into 100 goes once, and then 100 into 100, there it goes once. Then I'll be left with 1%. And then now at the stage of the game, what do? We then now multiply a numerator with another numerator. 20 multiplied by 1%, it will be 20%. How do we write that sign? It is 20%. Divide by denominator multiplied by a denominator. 1 multiplied by 1 is 1. Now we have what? We have 20% divided by 1, which is 20%. And therefore now we can clearly say to move from 100 to 120, there is an increase of how much? Of 20%. The 20% of 100, it is 20. Now if I add that 100 with the 20, we'll get 120. Therefore, this will be our answer to say that there is an increase of 20%, which resulted to 120 from a number 100. Let's look at the second one. 3.2, it says, calculate the percentage increase from 75 to 100. From 75 to 100. Then now we'll say the second question, it says 75 to 100. What is it that we need to do first? We need to find the difference. How do we find the difference? We would say 100 subtract 75. And then now what is 100 subtract 75? It will be 25. Therefore, there was an increase, or there is an increase of 25 from 75 to 100. Now the question is, find the percentage increase. Then we take the 25, that is the difference between 100 and 75. Then we say 25 divided by the original amount or the original number, which is 75. Then now, because we want to convert it to the percentage, or we're calculating a percentage increase, we're saying we multiply it by a 100%. And remember, we are dealing with fractions. Now let us represent 100% in terms of a fraction. Then we'll divide it by a 1. Then now I have a numerator, denominator, multiplying a numerator and another denominator. Good. Then now we said, here, if I have to multiply a numerator 25 with a numerator 100, I am going to have a big number that will be 2,500%, which we'll have to divide it by 75. But there is a way that we can simplify these numbers so that we work with smaller numbers, numbers that we can handle. Therefore, let us look here. We have 75 and 100. Do we have a number that can divide into 75 and into 100 without leaving any remainder? It means we are looking for the highest common factor. What will be the highest common factor of 75 and 100? Now, I said you need to know your times table. Clearly, it will be 75. It will be 25. Now, 25 into 75, it goes how many times? 3 times. And then now, 25 into 100, we said 25 into 100, it will go 4 times. Now, look, we have smaller numbers. We can now handle very, very quickly 25 multiplied by a 4%. What is 25 multiplied by a 4%? Therefore, 25 multiplied by 4, we know it is 100. And therefore, remember the percentage sign. Divide by 3 multiplied by 1, it will be a 3. And therefore, we have 100% divided by 3. Numerator is bigger than the denominator. What kind of a fraction is this? This is definitely an improper fraction. Now, in mathematics, don't leave your answer as an improper fraction. It will be an incomplete. Therefore, now we can simplify to say 3 here goes once. And therefore, if I just turn a blind eye onto the 0 here of 100, you see what? 10. And therefore, now I say into 10, 3 goes how many times? 3 times. I still have a 0 there. If I put 1, because 3 threes is 9. Therefore, 10 minus 9, it's a 1. Then I say 3 into 10 now goes how many times? It goes 3 times. I don't have another number. Then we say a comma. And therefore, we're left with what? With 10. And therefore, 3 into that 10 goes how many times? 3 times. And therefore, I am now left with 33,3% divided by a 1. And therefore, my answer will be 33,3% divided by 1 will give me 33,3%. And therefore, the percentage increase from 75 to 100, it will be 33,3%. Let us do a recap. We said 100 minus 75. We need to calculate the difference between the two, of which it is 25. Then now we say the difference 25 divide by what? The original amount. Was it 100 or 75? Definitely it was 75, because we have moved from 75 to 100, not the other way around. Then now I have 25 of the difference divide by 75 multiply by 100%. Then I said, let us simplify. The highest common factor of 75 and 100, we said that highest common factor is 25. Then now we said 25 into 75, it will be 3 times, because it will be 25, 50, 75, definitely 3 times. And 25 into 100, it will be 25, 50, 75, 100, definitely 4 times. Now I am left with 25 multiplied by 4%, of which 25 multiplied by 4 is 100, and therefore we put our percentage sign. In the denominators, we have 3 multiplied by 1, which will be a 3. Then now we have 100 divided by a 3, of which we said that will be a what? An improper fraction. Now we simplify it further to say 3 into 3 goes once, and then 3 into 10, I'm simplifying, I'm using another colored pen. Therefore, you at school, what do you use? You will use a pencil because you are using a ball pen to write. And therefore, we said 3 into 10 goes 3 times. And therefore, it leaves a remainder of 1. Then I put that 1 here. This reads as 10. Now 3 into 10 goes 3 times. Now because I don't have another number there, then I put a comma. And therefore I said I'll be left with what? With a 1. Therefore there is 0. Then I read this number as 10. Now 3 into 10, it will be what? A 3. It will also leave what? A remainder of 1, of which it will be a 3 recurring. And therefore I just said, okay, let me just have 1 decimal place after comma, then it will be 33.3%, dividing it by a 1. Now 33.3% divided by 1 is 33.3%. Now we are saying an increase from 75 to 100, it will be an increase of 33.3%. Now I think we can take the next question. The next question reads as follows. Now, these are the type of questions that we normally come across when we are writing our common tests. And therefore, we are also encouraging this type of questions in our daily classroom activities. It reads as follows. Calculate the percentage increase if the petrol price has increased from 16 Rand to 18 Rand per liter. I'm sure you'd recall that this past Tuesday at midnight, there was an increase in the petrol price. And therefore, this question says, now let us find the percentage increase from 16 Rand a liter to 18 Rand. Now we want to check in terms of percentages, how much is the percentage increase? Therefore, the price of a petrol per liter was 16 Rand, and therefore it increased to 18 Rand a liter. Now what is it that we need to do first? We need to find the difference between the two. And then we'll say, 18 Rand, 18 minus 16 Rand. The difference is definitely 2 Rand. 18 Rand subtract 16 Rand, then the difference will be 2 Rand. It means now, in terms of money, there was an increase of how much? Of 2 Rand, moving from 16 Rand to 18 Rand. But now the question is, let us find that percentage increase. Now we said, okay, the difference, that is 2 Rand, divide by the original amount, 16 Rand, and therefore we multiply it by what? We multiply it by 100%. But now because I'm dealing with fractions, I also express this 100% in terms of fractions. Then we put it, we say divide by a 1. Remember, not over 1. Now, what is it that we can do here? We can simplify or multiply. Now, let's check. Do we have the highest common factor between 16 Rand and 100? 16 and 100. The highest common factor, let's check. It will be 4. 4 into 16 goes how many times? Definitely 4 times. And therefore 4 into 100 you can just take it bit by bit. A 4 into 10 goes 2 times. It leaves a remainder of 2 because 2 fours is 8. Therefore, if I subtract 8 from 10, I will get 2. Therefore, I will read this little number here as 20. And therefore, 4 into 20 goes how many times? 5 times. Now we can see that 4 into 100 goes 25 times. Now what do we do at the stage of the game? Then we say, okay, we can multiply a numerator with a numerator, denominator with another denominator. Or we can even simplify further. Have a look at here. I have 2 and then 4. 2 into 2 goes how many times? Once. And then 2 into 4 goes how many times? 2 times. And therefore, voila, I have smaller numbers now to work with. What will be 1 multiplied by 25? Remember, the R shall have also cancelled each other. Now I am left with what? With 1 multiplying a 25%. We'll get what? We will get definitely 25%. Divide by 2 multiplying a 1. Now we're taking the denominators. 2 multiplied by 1, most definitely it will be a 2. Then now, what kind of a fraction is this? An improper fraction. Now we need to convert it to what? Either decimal fractions or mixed fractions. Now let us check whether we can convert it to mixed fractions. Now I can say 2 goes how many times into 2? It goes once, yes. And therefore 2 into 5 goes how many times? It goes 2 times. Do we have a remainder? Yes, because 2 2's is 4. Then if I subtract 4 from 5, I'll have a what? A 1. Therefore, I can safely say that will be 12.5 what? % increase. Or others can't prefer to write it like this. Because we have 25% divided by 2, we can say 2 into 2 goes once, fine. And then 2 into 5 goes how many times? 2 times. And therefore it leaves a remainder of what? Of 1. Therefore to that 1 I put 0, then we have what? 10. Then 2 into 10 goes how many times? 5 times. And therefore the percentage sign. Then we can say the petrol price increase in terms of percentage, it was 12.5% or 12.5%, which is the same. Remember we said the petrol price increased from 16 rand to 18 rand a liter. Then we said let us find the difference between 18 and 16 rands. Then 18 rand subtract 16 rand, we ended up with 2 rands. Now we said we'll take the 2 rands. Why? Because it's the difference between the two. Then we'll divide it with the original price per liter, that was 16 rand. Then we have 2 rand divided by 16 rand, multiply it by what? By 100%. Why? Because we want to calculate the percentage. Then we multiply it by 100%. Then we say, all right, let us simplify. The R sign, those units will cancel each other. Then I'll be left with 2 divided by 16. Then we said, let us look for the highest common factor of 16 and 100. Then we said, because we know our multiples and our tables, we said it will be a 4. Now 4 into 16 goes how many times? It goes 4 times. And 4 into 100 goes 25 times. Then now I am left now here with 2 divided by 4, of which we said we can also simplify it further and say 2 into 2 goes once, and then 2 into 4 goes 2 times. Now this side I'm left with 1 divided by 2, of which is a what? A half, multiplied by what? By 25%. Then I said 1 multiplied by 25% is 25%. 2 multiplied by 1 is a 2. Now what is 25 divided by 2? 25 divided by 2, it will be 12.5. Because I know 24, if I say 1 less here, 24 divided by 2, it will be 12. Then I'm left with that 1. therefore of which it gives me this fraction, 12.5%. Or we can say, I prefer the answer as a decimal fraction. Then I said 2 into 2 goes how many times? Once. And then 2 into 5 goes 2 times. And therefore, comma, it leaves a remainder of 1. And therefore, if I have 0 there, I'll read this number as 10. Now 2 into 10 goes 5 times. Then I have 12, 5, which are equivalent. They are the same. Now, my learners, let us have a look at the next question. The next question reads as follows. Calculate the percentage increase in the price of a 500 milliliter of juice from 6 Rand to 7 Rand 50 cents. An increase from 6 Rand to 7 Rand 50 cents in the price of a 500 milliliter of juice. The same procedure, you can write it as well. Take it, because I know that you have pen and a paper there. Try to work it out. Remember the hint. Get the difference of that amount that we have moved from 6 Rand to 7 Rand with. And therefore, we would say 7 Rand 50 cents, yes, subtract the 6 Rand. I know you have it there. And therefore, what will be our difference? 7 Rand 50 cents minus 6 Rand. Then most definitely our answers will be 1 Rand 50 cents. This will be the increased amount from 6 Rand to 7 Rand 50. And then now, how do we calculate the percentage increase? We said we take the difference, that is 1 Rand 50, and then we divide it by 1 Rand 50 cents, and then we divide it by the original amount. Therefore, the price increased from 6 Rand to 7 Rand. Therefore, the original amount is 6 Rand. And therefore, we need to multiply it by 100%. Why? Because we are looking for the percentage increase. Now remember, you need to put the percentage divided by 1. We express that whole number 100% as a fraction. Then we put a fraction line, and then we put 1 below. Then now we can also do what? We can simplify as we have been doing. Now, here we can say the 101 Rand 50 cent divided by 6 Rand multiplied by 100%. Then now I can write it as 1 Rand 50, 1,5 divided by 6 Rand 6. And then I multiply it by a 100%, which is divided by a 1. And then now we say simplification. Let us simplify. Or have a look at here. Remember from grade 6, I have now a decimal fraction. 1,5 is a decimal fraction. Now remember the rule. If I am multiplying it by 100, 100 has got how many zeros? 2 zeros. Now look at the number after the decimal comma. How many digits do we have? I have only one, that is what? 5. Now just to balance the amount, the numbers or the digits after comma, I can put the 0 there. Because that 0 does not make this number to be more. I'm just representing it to have the equal number of what? Decimal places. It's 1, 2 zeros, then I have 1, 2 digits. No problem. Now what was the rule? If I multiply a decimal fraction by 100, remember what is it that you learn when you got to grade 6 from grade 5? met in decimal fractions for the first time, I can see that your teacher said, okay, the rule is the decimal comma will move 2 places to the right. 1, 2. So it will be 1,50 multiplied by 100. It will be what? Because these two shall have cancelled out each other, then I will have 150. Divide by what? 6 multiplied by 1 is 6. And therefore, what kind of a fraction is this? This is an improper fraction. And therefore, how do we deal with improper fraction? We need to simplify them further to convert them to either what? Decimal fractions or mixed fractions. Then we'll say 16 into 16 goes how many times into 15? Let me just hide this 0. What do you see there? 15. Now 6 into 15 goes how many times? 6, 12, 18. Therefore, when we go to 3, it skips. Therefore, definitely it goes how many times? 2 times. Does it leave a remainder? Yes. A remainder of how much? 2, 6 is 12. Therefore, 12 from 15 is 3. Therefore, it leaves a remainder of a 3. And therefore, I have this number. How do I read it? 30. Therefore, 6 days once. 6 into 30, 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Definitely 5 times. Now I have 25% divided by 1. 25% divided by 1, which will be 25% divided by 1, it will be 25%. Now what do we say? We can clearly conclude by saying that there was an increase of 25% from 6 Rand to 7 Rand 50. And therefore, it simply means that shop owner has increased the price of juice, 500 milliliter of juice, by 25%, because the original price before there was an increase was 6 Rand. And then now it is how much? 7 Rand 50, which resulted in terms of money to 1 Rand 50 cent. There was an increase of 25%. Good. Then now, the next question is on percentage decrease. We have seen how to calculate the percentage increase, and then now let us have a look at the percentage decrease. The concept of percentage decrease is basically the amount of decrease from the original number to the final in terms of 100 parts of what? Of the original. A decrease of 5% would indicate that if you split the original value into 100 parts, 100 equal parts, that value has decreased by a deadline of what? Of a further 5 parts. Let us have a look at this example. 1. A number 40 has decreased to 32. And therefore, what will be the difference? Remember, we always said the next number, subtract the first. Here, if I have 32 subtracting 40, I would have what? A negative 8. That indicates what? A decrease. Therefore, there has been a decrease of 8 from 40 to 32. Now, the percentage decrease has therefore been the difference between 40 and 32, which is an 8. We divide it by the original amount or number 40. Then we multiply it by 100. Then we get a 20%. Now, let's look at the next one. 100 decreased to 25. Here there is a decrease of 75. Where do we get a 75? We said, okay, 100 subtract 25 is 75. The percentage decrease has therefore been, we take the difference between 100 and 25, which in this case is 75. We divide it by 100. And then we multiply it by what? By 100 Now voila, this one worked out very, very beautiful. 100 will cancel the 100, then we'll be left with 1% multiplying 75, which will give us a 75%. Now let us have some activities to work out before we can conclude our lesson. Now, we took straight those questions like we started with the percentage increase. Calculate the percentage decrease of the following, 10 to 8. Now, if we have to calculate the percentage decrease from 10 to 8, we can see that 10 subtract 8 is what? Is 2. Then now we can say, okay, there was a decrease of how much? Of 2. Now, if we want to convert this to percentages, we take the difference 2, then we divide it by the original amount of value, that will be a 10. And therefore now we multiply it by a 100%. Remember, the 100% we need also to write it in terms of fractions, and therefore it will be 100 divided by 1. Now I think we can simplify this one further by saying 10 into 10 goes how many times? Once. How many tens are in 100? Is 10. Then it simply means I have 10% there. Then we can say 2 multiplied by 10%, that will give us 20%, divided by 1 multiplied by 1, it will be a 1. Then 20% divided by 1 is 20%. Therefore, we can conclude by saying, for us to move from 10 to 8, it is a decrease of 20%. Thank you. Now, 3.2, I'm going to skip 3.2 and go to 3.3 because 3.2 work exactly like 3.1. We would say 25 minus 20, which will be a 5. Therefore, 5 of the difference, we will divide it by what? By 25. Now we will have 5 divided by 25 multiplied by 100%. Now, let's take this question. It says, calculate the percentage decrease if the water level in the tank has changed from 1,200 liters to 900 liters. The water level in question number 2 has changed from 1,200 liters to 900 liters. Now we need to find the difference. We can clearly see there was a decrease, because if I can say 900 minus 1,200, remember in grade 7s, we are now working with integers. That will be a negative 300. Then I can say 1,200 liters subtract 900 liters. This will give us 300 liters. And therefore the difference will be the 300. So 300 divided by 300 liters divided by what? The original value, which was 1,200 liters. And therefore we want the percentage decrease. Then we multiply it by 100%. And that 100% we divide it by what? We will have to divide it by 1. We are still following, I hope. Then we have 300 liters divided by 1,200 liters multiplied by 100% divided by a 1. Then we can do what? We can simplify. That unit can take each other out. Then I can simplify this number. 300 into 300 goes how many times? Once. And therefore the 300 into 1,200, it goes how many times? It goes 4 times. Then now I will be left with what? 1 multiplied by 100%, 100% divided by 4 multiplied by 1 is a 4, which is now 100% divide by 4. Help me here. 4 into 10. I can just make this calculation to be simple for myself. Just turn a blind eye on that 0. I'm not removing it, ne? Therefore, look there. What do you see? It's a 10. Then I say a 10 divided by 4. How much will be a 10 divided by 4? It will be a 2. Is there a remainder? Definitely yes. A remainder of how much? Of a 2, because 2 times 4 is 8. And then 8 from 10 is 2. Then I'm left with what? 2. Therefore, I read now this number as 20. How many 4s are in 20? It means 20 divided by 4 is definitely 5 times. And therefore, I can safely say there was an increase or a decrease, sorry, in the water level of about 20%, because the water level stood at 1,200 liters, and then at a certain stage now it was at, the reading was at 900 liters. We said that the difference between 1,200 liters and 900 liters is 300 liters. If we do the calculation, we say 300 liters divided by the original amount of value, that will be 1,200 liters multiplied by 100%. Then we said at this stage of the game, don't work with big numbers. Maths allow us to do what? To simplify. Then we said, okay, I can simplify this fraction, and then by saying 300 into 300 goes once, but 300 into 1,200 4 times. Now I'm left with 1 divided by a 4. That is what? A quarter. And what is a quarter of 100? A quarter of 100 is definitely 25. Then we can say a decrease was of a 25%. And then now, the last question, 3.4, says now here, calculate the percentage decrease if the cinema ticket price has decreased from 50 Rand to 45 Rand. And therefore, what is it that we need to do? We need to first calculate the difference between 50 Rand and 45 Rand. And then, how do we do that? We would say 50 Rand, subtract the 45 Rand. And how much are we going to get? 5 Rand. Good. We'll get 5 Rand. 50 Rand, subtract 45 Rand, it will be 5 Rand. Then now, we want that percentage decrease. What is it that we are going to do? We will say the difference, that is the 5 Rand divided by the original price of that cinema ticket. It was originally 50 Rand. Then we divide it by 50, and therefore, because now we want the percentage increase, that's when now we now introduce the multiplying by 100%. But now we said that 100% will have to divide it by 1. We just convert the 100 whole number into fractions. Then now we would say, okay, can I simplify this? Yes. The unit signs of the currency Rand can't cancel each other out, and then we can simplify this by saying 5 into 5 goes once, 5 into 5 once, 5 into 0, 0 times. And therefore, if I simplify, 5 divided by 50 is the same as 1 divided by a 10. Then now, we can do it this way. 1 multiplied by 100%, it will definitely be 100%. Divide by 10 multiplied by 1 is a 10. Now I need to simplify this one further. You can say, how many tens are in 100? They are 10 tens in 100, and therefore the percentage sign. And therefore now we can say there was a 10% decrease from 50 Rand to 45 Rand, of which it is very, very true. A 10% of 50, it is 5 Rand. Therefore, this is how we can see whether we have calculated it correctly. Now, my dear grade 7, in conclusion, I would like to say to you, in summarizing our lesson today that was based on fractions, but looking at the concept of percentage increase and percentage decrease. First, work out the difference. Then, an increase between or the difference between the two numbers you are comparing. Then you divide the increase by the original number, and then you multiply it by a 100. The same works with what? With a decrease. You first work out the difference, then you take the difference and you divide it by the original value or the amount, then you multiply it by 100. Now, for the percentage increase, we'll have an increase divided by the original number, then we multiply it by 100. If your answer is negative, meaning we have a price that was higher and therefore now it resulted into a lower amount. For an example, from the previous example we said a ticket price being 50 rand, now it was decreased to 45 rand. Then now you can see that there was a decrease of about 5 rands. Therefore now that's when it says if your answer is negative, it means now a smaller number having to subtract the bigger number, then this is a percentage decrease. For example, as I conclude, in summarizing, 27 to 30, you can see this is an increase because it started as 27, now it is 30. 30 minus 27, it will be a what? A positive 3 in terms of what? Integers. Now, when do we have a decrease? 45 to 43. Now, if I say 43, subtract 45, I will end up with what? A negative 2. This clearly indicates what? A decrease. Now, my dear grade 7s, let me take now this time to wish you all the best. Remember to practice maths every day. Maths is a beautiful subject. Till we meet again. Bye.